Hey y'all, it's your girl Michelle Lenae. I'm the founder of Christ Over Culture, and you are tuned into the Christ Over Culture podcast, the destination for faith news and pop culture. But this is the remix, y'all. I'm so excited because, as you know, I am breathing new life into Christ Over Culture. And this is all about you. It has always been about you. It's been about glorifying God, but through the power of our testimony. The word talks about how we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the power of our testimony. And so, I am featuring amazing people just like you here on this podcast to share their testimony, raw, unfiltered, so that you can believe in yourself too and the gift that God has placed in you. So today we have a very special guest. We have LaToya Moulton. Hey, LaToya.
Hello. Hello.
I am so excited LaToya is here. I've known LaToya for, which feels so weird. I just definitely think it's been like over 6 years now, maybe even longer.
Yep.
And LaToya has always been such a huge supporter. I think about our Christ Over Culture brunch, like back in the day and how you were there. And now you are gracing the podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about LaToya before we hop into the goodness, okay? She is a voiceover artist. Yes, voiceover artist in the building. She is a speaker. She is a published author and life coach who's all about helping faith-filled women rise up, reclaim their voice, and take bold steps toward their dreams. I know I can relate to that. Maybe you can too out there. LaToya is a wife, a boy mama, a coffee lover, and a big dreamer who believes that faith and a little bit of courage makes anything possible. So LaToya is going to share her journey. We're going to talk about even healing the inner child. So if that's for you, stick around. LaToya, welcome to Christ Over Culture.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I am just so excited to be here to share space with you on this evening. Like, even how you said, we've known each other for some years, from the brunch, and then we did the accountability group, and like an avid follower of Christ Over Culture podcast. So it was just a no brainer when this opportunity came around to be able to sit with you again. I mean, like, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Thank you. I'm excited that you said yes. So this is really me handing the floor over to you because I think so many of our listeners feel like they have a dream inside of them, just like we talked about in your intro, you shared they need it to come out, but they may need to be inspired by you. So LaToya, I'm giving you the floor to share your journey from where you started to now voiceover artist, inspiring men and women all over the world.
Awesome. So thank you, Michelle. I thank you so much. Um, so I was thinking about like our time coming together. And what was impressed upon my heart was like how in those beginning stages of life that God was watering the seeds of this gift that's beginning to flourish in my life even now, which is through voiceover. And I love how when I think about my journey, I can see where people God would use to affirm my gift, where God would use people to say, hey, you have a gift of communication, or, you really connect well with people, or, it's just a way of how you embrace other people and how you show empathy and stuff like that. Right. And so when I think about that, I can see how that was all in the shaping and in the molding of preparing me for this moment of being able to step into the role of like acting, and seeing how like over all those years of doing those things were preparing and watering the seed of where I am right now.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that you talked about those early seeds and that affirmation that was planted in you and how people saw from early on. And oftentimes it's like that with our giftings, but being able to affirm that and not tear that down is so important. So, can you share a little bit about how you stepped into being a voiceover artist and how that connects to your personal story of reclaiming your voice?
Yes, absolutely. So looking over my life, right, Michelle, I can see how my gifts were being utilized with whether if it was speaking or encouraging people, doing things within the local church, or how I eventually transitioned into being an entrepreneur with coaching women, and all of that stuff to now leading to voiceover. But I have to definitely say that my story is a story of redemption. And it's my personal story because it is a declaration that is declaring the redeeming power of God in my life. That God would take this young girl who was broken in shame, who was embarrassed, who was disappointed, who was violated, and how at such a young age that life tried to mute her voice. And then now to be standing in this space and place of seeing how God is causing restoration to take place in my life and giving me this courage and this boldness to explore new ways of how I can utilize my words, how I can utilize the presence and the connection that I carry on the inside. So even when I step into this creative space of voiceover, I'm still getting to use my words. I'm still getting to use my words to tell a story, to amplify a mission of a brand, right? To make connection with people. But it's so much deeper than that because I'm also celebrating this young girl, this 5-year-old girl, this version of myself, of how God has crowned her with favor and with redemption to let her know that her voice is valid, that he saw it, and that nothing concerning my life has ever fallen between the cracks with him, and that he is celebrating that, the gift of my voice, and telling me that however you want to explore that, whether if it's sitting across the table with a friend and I'm encouraging another woman about her life, her testimony, or I'm on a Zoom prayer call with 10 women, or I'm standing behind a podium, or if I'm standing in a studio and I'm working with a sound engineer and we're running tracks to audition for a commercial or whatever the case may be, that I feel like I'm standing in this place of healing and redemption in my life that is allowing me to declare the faithfulness of God. And so it makes
Wow.
me think about Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good to them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. Imagine that 5-year-old version of me that was muted. Life wanted to take her voice away, and it did for a season. And then to be introduced to Christ at a young age at 16, and that just revolutionized my life. And it has been a healing journey, continuing, because I haven't arrived. But man, when I look back, I see redemption, I see restoration, I see grace, I see the faithfulness of God, I see the love of God, I see long suffering, and I also see the providence of God, that he cares for us. And even when the enemy thinks that he has the upper hand, or even when, the sketching of our story, chapter 5 through 6 may have not been the best, right? But man, we serve a God, our Heavenly Father, so faithful that chapters 1 through 6 may have not been the best, but God has the power to redeem and to resurrect every broken piece of our life from the ashes.
Oh, yeah, it says
So,
the word talks about beauty from ashes, right? And you talked about, being redeemed and you experiencing grace and having to overcome shame, discouragement. What happened at 5 years old or in your childhood that made you need a redemptive story?
yeah. Well, at the age of 5, I was sexually violated by my babysitter. And this is a heavy topic. I know that there's so many that can relate to that. And you feel damaged. You feel dirty. You feel unloved. You feel invisible. There's fear, And I remember this sentence rolling over in my mind as I was trying to comprehend, hey, why did that happen to me? What's wrong with me? Like, what was it that made that happen to me? I didn't know now, but I thank God that I have a greater understanding and wisdom now compared to then. But this lie that I heard was because God hates you.
Mm.
And so for years, Michelle, I carried this underlining, negative, defeating loop in my mind over and over again. Oh, that happened to you because God hates you. That happened to you because God hates you. I mean, at 5 years old, but now when I think back at hindsight, I can see why. The enemy did not want me to discover the master plan of my Heavenly Father concerning my life. And
Yes.
so the
Yes.
intention was to take me out, right? The
Mm.
intention was to distort my vision of myself, to distort my vision of God, to distort my vision of my identity, my body, and self worth concerning myself. So, sister, when I tell you that it has been a journey, it has been a journey of breaking away from religion and really seeing God as Father and seeing God as my advocate and not my enemy, seeing
Mm-hmm.
Him
Mm-hmm.
as my vindicator and not this big God that was sitting on the throne hating me, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
that came with a lot of unlearning and allowing the light of truth to shine down in the crevices of my heart and to expose those deep hidden things on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So it has
Mm-hmm.
definitely been a journey of walking with Holy Spirit and trusting the heart of the Father for me, that He loves me, that He's always had a plan for my
Mm-hmm.
life, that He was angry when that happened to me. You know, he wasn't trying to anoint me or, give me a calling or, no, that was wickedness. That was sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the heart of the Father
Yes.
towards his children is love and protection and long suffering and health and wellness and abundance and joy and peace and love, grace, patience. That's the characteristics of my Father in heaven.
Absolutely.
Um, So I'm learning how to shift from performance into just being in his presence.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for sharing that. I know that that's such a topic that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you hold close to your heart.
Yeah.
And when you talked about the enemy taking, what
Mm-hmm.
he knew was inside of you early, I know I
Yeah.
shared that on my Instagram page. And, I can relate to you in the sense that I too experienced sexual violence while I was being cared for.
Mm.
And so it is such a heavy
Yeah.
topic when I think about how many people have experienced it and haven't voiced it, all the shame and discouragement and disappointment, the learning, the unlearning, the having to understand self-worth, and then kind of working through
Yeah.
that even in adulthood.
Yeah.
That's also something I personally had to walk through as well.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, it's so interesting. You said you had to learn God as not your enemy, but your advocate, because
Yeah.
you can feel alone. Like,
Yeah.
I know I felt like, God,
Yeah.
why is all this happening to me?
Yeah.
You know, and it sounds like what you were sharing, you saw the Father as like an enemy, you know, like God hated you and that's why that
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
you know, and there's so many ways that people see, you know, those like life altering, life changing
Yeah.
moments
Yeah.
that happen to them, and it's life shifting. That something
Yeah.
like that shifts something in
Mhm.
your life, even from an early age, and you may
Yeah.
not even uncover it until you're an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you know, it just in listening to you, Michelle, and I embrace you today as not only as survivors, but we're women who are thriving.
Yes, I embrace you
Come
too,
on.
my sister. I'm like, what the enemy meant for evil, God turns it around for good.
Come on.
Even
Yeah.
us sharing this, there's
Yeah.
somebody listening to this like me too, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And
mm-hmm,
I feel like also like even how you stated earlier about how we overcome by the blood of the lamb and by the word
mm-hmm.
of our testimony.
Our
That
testimony.
we are
Yes.
not, as children of God, we're not just meant to survive. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's not our birthright. Our birthright is
Yeah.
that we would thrive, that we
Yes.
would be like lights, you know, on beacons of light on a hill, that we would shine in
Mm-hmm.
darkness. And not saying
Yes.
that no, I'm perfect. I'm still a work in progress. But guess what?
Me
Guess
too.
what?
Me
My
too.
Father in
Mm-hmm.
heaven calls me a masterpiece. Okay? So it's
Yes.
all right to be both at the same time. He understands, you know?
Okay,
But
two
I feel
things
like
can
that's
be
the
true.
and I feel like that's what allows us to embrace humanity as a whole. That God is not looking for perfection. He's just looking for a willing heart. Right?
Yes. Yes.
And he just works through the lives of just ordinary people. And he takes our
Mm-hmm.
stories, our lives, our testimonies, and he uses it as a billboard to
Mm-hmm.
declare his glory and his faithfulness, of saying, like Psalms 40, which is one of my Psalms that I love, about how David said how he prayed and he waited for the Lord. And he was in such a deep pit. He was in the muck and the mire, in desperation, in brokenness and darkness. But then the Lord turned and he heard
Mm-hmm.
his cry and he answered his call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lifts us up, places us on a rock. The
Mm-hmm.
Lord our God establish our goings, places a new song in our mouths. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that next verse where it says, and many shall see and fear and will serve the Lord.
I know, right?
Right.
Isn't it good?
Yeah,
It's
that
so
you will
good.
get the glory through all that, you know?
Exactly. And I think that that's the key, is that by sharing our testimonies
Yeah.
and our stories and overcoming things, it's for God's glory.
Yeah.
It's so that you know the story doesn't end there. It's so that you know we are co-heirs with Christ. It's
Yeah.
so you know, like LaToya said, he gives us life and life more abundantly. We're meant to thrive. We're not meant to just survive. So I thank God for his son Jesus and
Yeah.
everything that you have said, LaToya. He produces beauty from ashes. What
Yeah.
you think is dead, what you think is destroyed, what you think when you think there's nothing left of your life, or that whatever you've done or what has happened to you just like has literally disintegrated everything, that you're just literally ashes in the dust. God says, but look, the story is not over. The story is not over, and he gives us a new song. He literally washes us clean, and you aren't the things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
You can use those things
Hmm.
to testify of the
Yeah.
goodness of God, just like LaToya is doing here, just like our conversation is doing here. So I just want to encourage somebody that it does not have to be what you think it is.
Yeah.
God has rewritten our story and has created us anew, made us new creatures, born again
Hmm.
in Christ, so that you can share your story. And I think, nobody wants to go through those things. Like LaToya, you talked about just a turning point.
Hmm.
And I'm curious, I really would love to know what that was for you, because I know for me it really didn't come until recently. So I'm curious, like, what was that turning point for you that kind of shifted your perspective from God the enemy versus God my father, my advocate? What was that like for you?
Oh my goodness. That's such a good question. Good question. You know what? If I can be honest with you, that shift
Yes.
took place for me in 2016 before we
Wow, what
met.
happened?
Yes. Well, the Lord just kicked me out of my nest. And I was in this place of complacency, comfortable,
This is
and
when you moved, right? From Florida to
yes,
Houston?
yes,
I
yes,
remember that.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And holding on to comfort, but I had outgrew that space. And now when I look back over that, even from our time when we shared and we talked, I can see how I'm like, whoa. It was like the Lord was just calling me higher because there was more that He needed to reveal to me about Himself. So I had to leave the familiar place because the
Mm-hmm.
familiar, comfortable place was just comfortable. But He was calling me out into deeper waters. And in those deeper waters, I had no other choice but to trust Him because
Wow.
everything I knew, I had to leave it behind. So here,
Was
me
that
and my
easy?
family.
Was that hard to do? Like, did you trust him immediately?
Oh my goodness, Michelle, no, it was. I'm like, no, we can't leave. That's not what it is. And mom's just like, I just feel like God is calling for us to move to Texas. I'm like, we need to pray because we don't have no job set up yet. I mean, we don't even know nobody over there. And then we over here and we're so active in this church organization and all our family is here. And we got this going on. And man, the more we just kept sitting in God's presence and waiting on God, the more God began to reveal that it was of Him. But it was hard.
Wow.
It
Mm.
was so hard that I was still holding on and being dragged. And I remember
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
I
at
know
work
about
one day.
that. I know
I was
about
at
that.
work. Oh, it's the
Yeah.
most, girl, when I think about it, Michelle, like, and I was at work one day and I remember just a clear as day, God saying, hey, you're going to have to let go or you're going to get dragged.
Oh, wow.
You can walk around this
And you got
mountain.
dragged.
Yeah, I got dragged. Yeah, I did.
Look,
I
Jesus
was
has dragged me too. Jesus has dragged me too. Like, it's like join the club. We have been dragged.
yeah,
Where the draggers at? Okay, who has been drugged by the Lord?
dragged,
Yeah.
dragged, friend.
He'll do that for his
Yeah,
for his purpose. The Lord will drag you. He is not above dragging. But the thing is that we have to be willing. You talked about
yeah,
that heart that's willing.
yeah,
So he'll all things work together. So
yeah,
the Lord, sometimes those are growing pains. Like you
yeah.
talked about moving from Florida
Mm-hmm.
to Texas. But he also stands at the door and knocks, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he'll be beaten, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he'll be knocking. There will be things and circumstances in our life where that will cause us to feel like we are going through the ringer.
Yeah,
But it's when we have that willing heart
yeah,
that things, it sounds like,
yeah,
change for us because you were willing to trust him and go.
yeah. And you know what, too? I knew that it was time.
Mm.
I knew it.
How'd you
Spirit.
know?
Yeah.
What were some of the signs and things?
The sign was I felt so uncomfortable. Everything was like it was scratching on a chalkboard. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I'm applying. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to apply for another role at this job. Or maybe I need to do this. I need to do that. Or maybe I need to, be more active. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to, show up more and do more, and then everything will be okay to kind of like ease over. It'll just glaze itself over. But the more I
Yeah.
tried, the more difficult it became, the more uncomfortable it became, the more uncomfortable I became. And it was just like my spirit is saying, like, let go. I just need you to
Mm.
trust me. Let go.
Mm-hmm.
Let go. And I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I needed to let go. But after that dragging, yeah, then I was like, okay, Lord, okay, I let go.
Mm-hmm.
I let go. I let go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is when the shift happened. Because then I had to slow down. I wasn't as busy performing, pleasing, you know?
Yeah. I know about performing and pleasing. It's exhausting. But we do it so much because I think that's what we think people expect of us
Yeah.
and that we're supposed to do until and I think that's the trick of the enemy too, because that inherently means we're not enough,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just as we are.
Come on.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it can feel like just super irritating, exhausting
Yes.
because we feel like we have that disease to please. I know
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
have definitely had the disease to please,
Yeah.
but that's not who we are. And
Yeah.
and it's like a rat race, right?
It
It's a
is.
never enough because everybody wants something different. And one day you want this and the next day you
Yeah.
want that. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
Mm-hmm.
life caused me to slow down, you know?
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
the slowing down, I became still enough to hear. And I was away from the familiar and in this vast open space here in Texas where we didn't know anyone. It was almost like I thought it was more so like a starting over, but it wasn't a starting over. It was just moving on into a new chapter. Like the story was continuing. And then that is where I began to see God as Father. That
Wow.
one of the nuggets that I hold dear, and whenever I get a chance to talk, to share with other women, or just in general, um, was me driving one day to prayer, and I'm blowing my horn, get out the way, because I had an hour, right? And I'm trying to get there so I can open up the doors to the church, move.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard God so clear, Michelle. This was probably before we left, and then we ended up leaving after this. But I heard God so clear, He said, I am more concerned about the condition of your heart than the works of your hands.
Oh wow. Mm,
And that just
that's
floored
good.
me
Mm-hmm.
because I
That's
thought that
real.
I needed to be busy for Him, proving Him that I'm good enough, right? That I'm worthy enough.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what it is.
I think about that scripture where God talks about like there will be people who like preach in my name and like claim they knew me, and then we get to heaven, and then He's like, "I never knew you." He wants us to be like childlike,
Mm-hmm.
to come to Him for everything, and that's something I know even personally I've had to learn, still learning.
Yeah.
Like you, still in progress, will be until the day that I die, but
Yeah.
learning Him as Father in terms of I have to run to you. That's that condition of our heart. That's that trusting Him. That's that surrender. You talked about surrendering it over to Him.
Yeah.
That we're all a work in progress and working on constantly, striving for and working on.
Yeah. God cares for the whole me,
Yeah.
the whole me, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, spiritually, physically, my dreams, desires. He placed
Yeah.
those things in my heart anyway. He
Mm-hmm.
cares for the whole me.
Yes, he does.
He's not a taskmaster, right? He's not a mean
Mm-hmm.
God, but he's my vindicator. He's my father,
Mm-hmm.
so that's when the journeys started of just this healing and peeling back the layers, peeling back the
Mm-hmm.
layers. And so here we are in 2025, and man, I just had this courage. I remember just vaguely, Michelle. 2020, this was during the time of George Floyd and everything that was going on during that time. And I was downstairs, just in there playing worship music and just everything that was going on, just the heightenedness of all of that. And I just remember hearing God say, I want you to get back into acting. I'm like, what? We shut down. People are marching. We're trying to get a
Yeah.
point across right now. like
Yeah.
it's just nothing's really open. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember running upstairs and telling my husband, like, I think I'm supposed to like get back into like acting, like taking some acting classes.
Oh,
And
wow.
thank God for him, like being my biggest supporter. He was like, yeah, I've been told you can do it.
Wow. We need those people in our lives. Shout
Yeah.
out to your husband,
Yeah.
okay? Because in
Yeah.
that moment, he could have spoke life or death, and he
Yes.
spoke life.
Yes. Yeah. My biggest supporter. And I thank God for him. And we'll probably have to do another segment to talk about all of how we met and everything. But
Yeah.
God is so intentional about connection and community because that's so very
Mm-hmm.
important. Because people, we humans, we have the ability to speak life and speak death, and we can speak life over a dream, right? That seed that's so fragile, and it needs to be spoken life over. It needs to be tended to. It needs to be placed in the right soil and, nurtured and protected. And I told him, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's always, you have it. You have the voice. God is giving you the voice. So I found literally an acting class that would let you come in, but of course we had to wear masks. And so I
Yeah.
signed up and I started taking classes, and I did that since 2020. And then I ended up getting pregnant again. Kind of threw a little monkey wrench.
Everybody had a COVID. Well, let me not say everybody. A lot of people had a COVID baby because I didn't have a baby, but a lot of people had a COVID baby.
Honey, that's the joke me and my husband have when we tell people, we're like, man, they just said we had to stay in the house. It was like Netflix and chill. I'm like,
Everybody was Netflixing and chilling.
But yeah, but even in the midst of that, the dream was still kicking on the inside.
Wow. And that's how
Still,
God works.
yeah.
It will whatever you're supposed to do
Uh-huh.
will not leave you alone.
Yeah.
Tell me how I know.
Yeah.
Christ over culture. Tell LaToya, tell them how you know.
Oh my goodness. So pregnant with my son, kind of took a
Yes.
break from the acting classes, right? I tried to do it as much as I could till my belly got really big, right?
Uh-huh.
We go in for the C-section, the surgery that morning. And the nurse, she's so kind. She's prepping me, getting me ready, putting the IV in my arm, all those things, right? Getting my husband ready.
Yes.
And she was like, well, I'm going to go across the way to ask you some questions because my kiosk is not working. So I need to get to my computer and just yell your answers out. It's just you and a couple of other nurses. I'm like, okay, fine. So, she asked me my first and last name and all those kinds of things. And then when she's done, a nurse comes from the back. And she was like, it comes over to where me and my husband was in our little private area, had the curtain pulled around, and we're just sitting waiting. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I do not mean to disturb you. But I'm in the back and I'm hearing this voice. And I'm like, who is this woman with this beautiful voice? She was like, you should do voiceover. Literally, and my husband's like, see, I told you. So, and we laughed about that in just the God moments, Michelle, of how I feel like life speaking through people to me to affirm, and that continued to nurture the dream. So after I had my son, and then that's when I picked back up the acting and voiceover, and to where we are now. Yeah, yeah.
That's a
Mm-hmm.
great story, LaToya. I mean, she could hear you, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like, she had to stop in her tracks. And I
Yeah.
think that that's such a key takeaway because I'm sure there are people listening to this podcast who noticed somebody, multiple people have probably said something about you
Mm-hmm.
that you knew that you didn't even tell them that they said.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like those footprints, those fingerprints, those handprints of
Mm-hmm.
God saying, see, I told you, like this gift is inside of you. People
Yeah.
who don't even know you see it, when are you going to see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that story so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. And then you know what? Even like as you're saying about that, I'm thinking about the Christ over culture community and our listeners. Not
Yeah.
only when you see it, but then when will you tend to it? When will you begin to
Woo,
water it? Right?
woo.
When will you stop dumbing it down? Stop shrinking back? When will you stop overthinking and delaying yourself? When will you stop? And I had to come to this realization that I was not waiting on God. God was waiting on me.
Testify. Didn't we talk about that? How God waits for us, a willing heart. Oh, I can shout right now. That is so good. He's waiting on us. He's waiting on you, me, us to give him our yes. That's
Yes.
so good.
Yeah.
So, how long was it between you being pregnant in the waiting room with your baby to I'm gonna do a voiceover or
Okay.
like I'm gonna launch my voiceover career?
Well, after I had him, and then, it's just women, we go through our transition in our bodies. And so I had to just give myself time, had to heal up
Yes.
mentally, emotionally. So
Yes.
I had my baby boy in June of 2021. And I just kind of like took the rest of that year to just adjust to this newness, to
Mhm.
him and then my oldest and just life, right? And then I said to myself for 2022, I feel like I'm ready. I want to just slowly step into like picking up the acting classes again. I just would jot down those breadcrumbs of like how that nurse said that to me, or how my writing teacher said that to me in middle school, or how, I was affirmed, from my pastor, or just like random things that would happen in my life. I would just, like jot them down and hold them close, and so I just gave myself that time to just really be with him and my family, and to just mentally and emotionally tend to myself. And then that's when I started like picking the classes back up slowly and started getting back into the groove of that. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Now, I know that when we reconnected more regularly, that was what, the end of 2023. Yes. And we
Yes.
had the accountability group, but it's say whatever you have to say before we get into that. But I know we connected,
Yes.
about a year later.
So here's
And
it's
yeah,
perfect timing, Michelle, because may we not get confused with the instant highlight reels that we see on social
yeah.
media platforms, because progress is progress. And it comes with
Okay.
time, and it is a marathon for real. Like it's not a
Oh, yeah.
sprint. Like it's like step by step, and disappointment, detour, pausing, life, this, get back in. I'm over it. I don't want to do it no more. This is dumb. Man, let me get back up.
Yes, all of the things. All of it. It's just squiggly.
And then when I saw you on social media post about the accountability group, I was like, you know what? I need some more extra support and a safe space where I could just land and connect with other women. And of course, I love your spirit and your heart and Christ over culture. And I was like, and that really was a game changer that helped me push me literally, because at the time I did not have the demo. I did not have none of those things until after we finished our accountability group. Yeah.
Look. I'm in awe. And no, I did not pay LaToya to say this. Yeah. I think that this was honestly the first time you said this because, you know, shortly thereafter I saw those things.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that you were thinking about podcasting because I know we talked a lot about kind of getting like clarity and focus, and we all kind of had to go through different iterations of things. So when I saw the voiceover artistry, you know, in your page and changing your hand, I'm like, oh, you know, you said you had built your studio. Like, I was just so proud of you because I saw these things we talked about in the accountability group come to life. Yep. And that was really a God thing. Yep. God told me right then, you know, you talk about timing. I had never done an accountability group before. Yes, I have a heart for people. I want to see all of us win. That's what Christ Over Culture is all about. That's why we share our testimonies to encourage you in your journey to win. But at that time, you know, I remember hearing God say now. Like it was how we talk about those things in our spirit that it's like, you know, God will place things and it may be there until you actually like have a willing heart to say yes. Yeah. That was one of those things in that particular time. So I'm just ecstatic that this is what has happened because that's what it was all about. I'm like, that is the best thing.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it was there for.
I loved it, and it was perfect timing, you know, and just what you shared and us coming together. And I loved how everyone was in their own, like in their own lane or just their journey and their path, but we would still come, share our goals, talk out what's going on in our heads. And then of course the journal, the daily journal planner that you have, like I have that. And that just helped me. So then like once we were done, you were watering the seed, friend. You don't even know. What? Yes. Think about it because I didn't forget, you know, I didn't forget. Life was still lifing, right?
Mm-hmm. You know, as it does.
But I remember like seeing that journal. Okay, what are my 3 things today? You know, like what are the 3 things that I can focus on this week that can get me a step closer? You know, one of the things I would just keep saying to myself over and over again, hey, it's progress over perfection. You just, you just give yourself permission to be a beginner. It's okay for it to look messy right now. You know, yes, the middle is very uncomfortable. It's okay, you know, but honoring it. And man, when I finally cleaned out my space and we got the studio and the soundproof stereo, I was like, I felt so proud. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was thinking in my mind, like, I got to get with Michelle to let her know that, hey, you watered the seeds. I didn't forget. The group was what I needed.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And LaToya, I know we haven't even talked. We'll have some more people, group members on here specifically. When I tell you I've seen God do it. Wow. Like how you've talked about how you've launched your voiceover career. Actually, Andrea was just on the podcast here recently, and she got into the Adidas Community Lab and got $75,000 for her business. Like, you can't tell me what God can't do. This is not me. I'm like, Lord, come on.
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
So when I see you guys just shining on social media and the things that you said you wanted, you know, that God placed inside of you, and then I see the picture, I'm like, yes, how can I like this thing 1,000 times? Like, how much? I know. LaToya, I send you stuff. How many celebratory emojis can I put here? Because it gives glory to God. It's literally a God thing. Yeah. And I just see it in the fruit of the women who were in that group. It's so special to me.
Yeah. And you know what too, Cheryl, what I learned in our accountability group was the whole thing of getting off of the sideline. That you have to put action with faith. Like it just reiterated that, you know, not that I did not know it, but to be in that space and us talking about it and you even sharing about how, hey, this is what I set up for this week. And these are the 3 things that I set for myself. But then also giving space for grace because life, right? You're like, okay, well, we'll just move it over to next week. You know, and I remember how you were saying, LaToya, how's your studio? Did you get it? I'm like, no, girl, I didn't get around to it. Well, okay, we'll just move it to next week. And but eventually I did. And I got my monitor
You
up
did.
and all of that cool stuff. And man, worked hired a coach to help me prep for the demo because the demo's like the calling card, my presentation
Yes.
and all of that. And that was phenomenal and an amazing experience. And having the demo. So it's just showing about the work, you know,
Yes.
and that's one of
Yes.
the key things that I walked away from our group is just reiterated that about the work, tending to it, protecting it, stewarding it, cultivating it, and investing. I had to invest my time when we would meet every week
Hmm.
like that, right?
We did.
Of being
We
committed,
did.
being intentional about that. So, yeah,
Because you deserve it.
yeah,
You deserve it.
yeah.
Ah. Oh, this just has made me so full. So where are you now? What's happening now with LaToya Voices It? Where
Well,
are you now in your journey? And I want to say it takes a village too. You
yeah.
mentioned you had a coach, you did the accountability group.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to know. You said it's a marathon. Having those people to wrap their arms
Yeah,
around you is so important to keep you going as you continue to tend to
yeah.
to the thing that God has given you. So I'm glad you said that. So where is LaToya Voices It now? What are you doing?
Okay, so it's pretty awesome. So now this is the year of me like launching out, friends, okay? And putting my demo out there and auditioning and I've been able to do some pretty cool things that's like up in, they're finalizing it before I can like, release it out to the public, but I feel so proud about that. I feel very accomplished. Man, I just feel proud of myself, that just the determination to just keep showing up, even in the small ways, that it will pay off if we just keep moving forward step by step. So, my vision is big. I want to do it all. I want to do audiobooks. I want to do meditation apps. Children books, So I'm pitching to
Yes.
everything, right? E-learning, like all of those things. It's just been a really fun ride to just give myself permission to play and explore in that way,
Yeah.
and to see myself in that space. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it. Hey, LaToya, your voice is like velvet. Like it's just it's like a purple velvet rope that you literally just want to like touch. It's so smooth.
I received that, friend. I received that.
Yes, like I can definitely hear you, on like a commercial, like
Yeah,
voicing LaToya Voices It. I can hear you. I don't know why Folgers coffee is coming to mind, but just like those staple voices, where it's like that long, like mainstay. Like you hear those
yeah,
commercials and you've heard that voice for like 10, 15
yeah.
years. So that I just pray that over your life
I
as
received that.
doors open for you, that you are like you become a voice, of a brand, a thing where it's like we come to know and trust you because
Yeah,
it's your voice. LaToya Voices It.
I received that. Thank you.
Yay! Well,
Yeah.
where can people find you so they can see you voicing it?
Yes, so you can follow me on IG at LaToya Voices It. And I just have like my YouTube channel, just uploading just like my commercials and things of demos. And that's LaToya Voices It as well. But most of the time right now, I'm hanging out on IG and uploading things in my stories of being a mom and a wife and dreaming, right? And doing all of the things. And it's messy and it's fun and it can be stretching. Yeah. But I love it. I love it. And you can also find me at Arise Now Life Coaching. That's where I'm at when I use my platform to utilize my voice to empower and uplift women. That's still so much a part of me. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah, those two places.
Oh, well, thank you. Look, I am so very, very proud of you. Thank you for being on this podcast,
Yeah,
for sharing your testimony, your story. Just such a intricate. I think of like uh fabric, like your journey is just a mosaic of different things. So thank you for being honest, for being open, for being vulnerable, for sharing those parts of you with us to help encourage someone else in their journey. I just want to thank you for being here and sharing space and sharing your dreams and who you are, the very essence of your being here with me and on Christ Over Culture. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
It's a pleasure, my friend.
Yay! Well, go follow LaToya on all the things. Keep up with her journey as she continues. I feel like this is going to have to be like one of those Oprah shows, like, where are they now? Like, in 5 years, we're going to have to do a check in, see where they are in the journey called life and what God continues to call us to in different things. So thank you so much. You can catch this episode. You're probably listening to it on your podcast or you're watching it on YouTube. You can follow all things on Christ Over Culture as well as on Instagram at Christ Over Culture. Share this with a friend. Encourage them. Say, you have that dream. You can do it. I just heard LaToya talk about it. Michelle's over here encouraging you. What are you waiting for? And be sure to also be tending to your dream too. We love you. I can't wait to see you on the podcast next time. Be sure to subscribe. Check out all things on ChristOverCulture.com, including merch. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.